substantially. That with few, and I mean very few, notable exceptions, preachers need to change what they are doing is not a point I shall argue. If you are of the mind that, on the whole, preaching in America is tolerably good, or, for that matter, even tolerable, then you and I are on such entirely different wavelengths that I don't think I could convince you to see it otherwise, no matter how hard I tried. So I won't. But if you are among those who recognize the great deficiencies that exist and would like to do something significant about the situation, even if it might mean taking radical departures from your present practices, then I believe this is the book for you. This book is not a mere restatement of past ideas and practices in contemporary language. It takes a new turn. As there was a need for a definitive change in Christian counseling when I wrote Competent to Counsel, so too is there a need for such change in all areas of the practical field, in administration, Christian education, pastoral work, but especially in preaching. I have been a consumer of thousands of sermons in my lifetime, far more than the average person. Since at seminary, I often listened to well over 100 sermons each semester, and while I must say I have heard some good preaching, in all honesty, I must say also that there has been much, much more poor preaching. My experience has not been isolated to novices, however. I have heard conference speakers, seminary professors, pastors, and just about every other sort of preacher there is, from every sort of background and denomination. Yet the story is the same. Poor preaching predominates. Everywhere I go, I hear the same complaint from laymen. Why don't the seminaries teach men to preach? The question is not just a part of the typical griping that goes on all the time. It has a solid basis in fact. And it is asked most frequently by those who are most sincere in their faith, not as an excuse to cover irresponsible behavior, but as a genuine heartfelt cry. Men and women, and especially young people, are being turned away from Christ and His church by dull, unarresting, unedifying, and aimless preaching. The question about seminaries is a legitimate and live one. Well, why don't the seminaries do a better job? That question haunts homiletics departments everywhere. Part of the answer will be found in the inadequate structure of seminaries themselves, part in the failure of the church leadership to take the matter of ministerial selection and ordination more seriously, and part in the almost unbelievable willingness of congregations to put up with mediocrity or worse. At any rate, the present crisis in preaching need not, indeed must not, be permitted to continue. Something must be done about the situation. While I do not expect to see great changes in the structure of theological education in the near future, there are too many persons with too many vested interests of various sorts who are too deeply entrenched for that. There is one place from which I think I can realistically hope for change, from faithful, concerned pastors and seminary students. And because homiletic professors in particular, as well as practical theology professors in general, are so often considered a breed apart by other teachers in the seminary, there is hope that they too may find it easier to break the chains of tradition that so tightly bind most other theological academes. Over the last few years, I have had the opportunity to work with thousands of Bible-believing preachers and theological students, both in this country and abroad. While there are numerous exceptions, of course, I find them to be an overwhelmingly genuine group of men. They are anxious to please Christ, willing to listen to new ideas and approaches, provided they can be shown to be biblical, and dedicated to personal improvement. As a whole, they seem far more acclimated to change than do their counterparts in educational and administrative posts. They have been the hapless recipients of an education that they, by bitter experience, have learned is deficient in any number of ways, and that, as a result, has failed to equip them for their ministerial tasks. They are embarrassed and hurt, and find themselves scrambling for whatever help they can get. Just look at all the pastors' conferences they attend. These pastors have experienced the problems one faces on the battlefronts of Christian ministry.